Hello YouTube, it is May 2nd, 2019, and I'm here to do a video on the double standards of white police officers versus black police officers when it comes to shootings of unarmed people. So shout out first to Phil the Advice Show. I seen this on his Twitter. I'm subscribed to him, where he posted an update on the Minneapolis police officer who is of Somali descent, who was found guilty of shooting an unarmed woman. And why I'm feeling that this is some bullshit compared to the circumstance of which he was fired. But let's go ahead and get into it and why I find that it's bullshit. So, give y'all a little breakdown. A former Minnesota police officer was found guilty of murder Tuesday for shooting an unarmed woman who called 911 to report a possible rape behind her home. The jury convicts Minneapolis police officer Muhammad Noor of third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter for the July 15, 2017 slaying of Justine Rezacic Damon. She is Australian, so I know I'm mispronouncing that. A dual citizen of the United States and Australia. The jury found him not guilty of the top charge of second-degree murder. Okay, so they convicted them of manslaughter. Okay, but still, I'm gonna tell y'all why I still think this is a bullshit. Noor, who was fired from the Minneapolis Police Department after being charged, now faces up to 15 years behind bars for third-degree murder. And I'm going to get into, after breaking down these other cases, I'm going to show you why he shouldn't serve no more than 3 years. He was handcuffed and taken into custody over the objections of defense attorneys who wanted the former police officer to remain free on bond, nor showed no visible emotion and didn't look back at supporters in the gallery, including his crying wife. That's actually a tactic that any lawyer would tell you, that you don't supposed to show emotion in court, because especially if you're black, because to show any signs of actual remorse, they actually use that against you and will actually imply that you feel guilty of, like, I can't explain it, but they'll make it seem like if you broke down that you was essentially guilty of doing it out of malice intent, as opposed to this being a tragic accident, which actually this was a tragic accident. But if he was to break down, they would actually use that against him as if he is remorseful for the malice shooting of this woman. So most you know defense attorneys will tell you not to show emotion. That's why most people have a poker face in court. Nor a a Somali immigrant who's been on the job for 2 years is scheduled to be sentenced on June 7th. So that's a month and 5 days from now. His defense attorney left the courthouse without commenting to reporters. This is a tragic shooting that did not have to happen. It should not have happened. Hinsfield County Attorney Mike Freeman said after the verdict were read. A man who served on the jury, which deliberated about 11 hours, told NBC affiliate Card 11 or 2 that he felt bad for Noor, but that the jurors followed the law in convincing him. I would love to see what these jurors look like, because they ain't show no picture of what the jurors look like. And I'm going to get into that in a moment as well. I feel bad for the guy. He told the station, I feel bad for his family, but we determined he committed a crime, and in the end, no one is above the law. I can't tell, and I want to go into that in a moment as well. Hold on to that. The police union called the death extremely unfortunate for all parties concerned. From the very onset, this was an extremely unfortunate situation for all involved. The tragic loss of life, an officer convicted of murder charges while on duty, according to a statement by the Police Officers Federation of Minneapolis. Our condolences go out to the family and friends of Justine Resurrect Diamond. Our thoughts are with former Officer Noor. Okay, so they saying former officer, so they already darn preparing for his ass to go. Like he ain't in darn fully gone yet. They already saying former officer and all. The Federation respects the legal process and the findings of the juror. Nor took the stand in his own defense last week, telling jurors he believed Diamond was armed and was within point blank range of his partner, Matthew Harry, when he fired his weapon. The jury started deliberating Monday afternoon. The panel was sequestered as soon as deliberation began. Nor and his partner drove into Diamond's South Minneapolis neighborhood. When the driver, Harry, testified he thought he heard a thump on the hood of the car. Nor testified he saw a woman he turned out to be Damon with her arms outside Harry's window and then fired, believing he was saving his partner's life. He turned to me with fear in his eyes. Nor said of his partner, his gun appeared caught in his holster. Nor told jurors he saw a blonde woman at Harry's driver's side window and believed she was raising an arm. I fired one shot and the threat was gone, Nor, a Somali American immigrant, told jurors. So he only fired once. Let that be known. He fired just one time. He didn't empty his clip or anything. This is the unfortunate woman that, got shot and died on the spot. Both officers had body cameras, but they were not turned on at the moment of the shooting, which is why I always say these darn on cameras need to be turned on. What's the point of having the cameras if the cameras ain't going to be turned on? Investigators found no forensic evidence that Diamond had touched or slapped the squad car before she was shot. No evidence of sexual assault was ever found. The tragic killing was an international incident as loved ones of Diamond, 40, a life coach originally from Sydney, half a world away, demand justice. The woman's father, John Resnick, had filed a $50 million lawsuit. Now, meanwhile, the average lawsuit paid out to us is what, between $1 to $3 million. I think the family of Philando Castile, and he was shot at point blank range and was an innocent bystander. How much he got? What, $3 million? And he got a whole clip darn gone shot up at him in front of his darn gone girlfriend and the child on camera in a reckless manner that could have killed them. And they got just $3 million. Now, I'm not trying to compare doggone tragedies because both victims died, and it's unfortunate. But you talking about somebody who got a whole clip busted up in him versus the woman got shot once. She getting she's going up for $50 million, and Philando Castile's family got only 3. We are satisfied with the outcome, Roosevelt said after the verdict. The jury decision reflects on the community's commitment to 3 important pillars of a civil society: the rule of law, the respect of the sanctity of life, and the obligation of the police force to serve and protect. And then that's it. And let me say the bullshit with this. Like I said, it's unfortunate that she got shot and was killed. And she didn't do anything wrong. But what I'm saying was that this was a freak accident. And actually, I guess he did rightfully get. I'm not saying that he wasn't properly charged. He was charged with manslaughter. I hope it was involuntary manslaughter. Because I don't think they. Let me see. 15 years behind bars for third-degree murder. Okay, so third degree is considered like involuntary manslaughter. So he was properly charged. So I'm not saying that they didn't charge him correctly. But the thing is, for this, I don't know why he was up for murder when in the circumstances that this happened, it was not intentional. It was a freak accident where he thought the person was an assailant. So even though he was shooting intentionally, he thought he was honestly going after a person who was attacking his fellow officer. So that is grounds for more so manslaughter. And the fact that he shot one time as a warning shot and it hit the person as opposed to him, because when you fire one shot, you actually firing a warning shot. So that proves that he was just sending out a warning shot. That warning shot just happened to hit the person and they died. So under the circumstances that multiple shots wasn't fired, that makes more sense for involuntary manslaughter as opposed to second degree or first degree murder. Because for it to be murder, you had to show that he was intentionally trying to shoot, which means he would have had to at least been firing more than one time to show intent to shoot to kill. Because you only need to shoot 2 to 3 times to really hit somebody, because you're supposed to shoot to disarm. You don't supposed to shoot to kill unless you're in a up close life threatening situation yourself, which he wasn't, but his partner potentially was. But even then, if you can just shoot the darn gone, um, graze the person so your other officer can take down the assailant, that's what you're supposed to do. So that's what Officer Noor did. Shot one time, and that was it. And now he's darn on being convicted uh, bittersweetly on involuntary manslaughter. Like I said, he was rightly charged on that, but the fact that he was even up for murder and facing 15 years is some bullshit, considering that. Let's go over here real quick to Jason Van Dyke. Now, Jason Van Dyke is the ex-Chicago officer sentenced to 6 years and 9 months for Laquan. No relation to me, y'all, and because the name is actually spelled similar with the UA on the end. Uh, but yeah, for the shooting of Laquan McDonald, a family member of McDonald's, addressed people in Chicago unhappy with the sentence, saying, "Take a moment and let us breathe." The former So as y'all see, all that, Jason Van Dyke's punishment was far less than the minimum of 18 years that the prosecutors were seeking. I'm trying to figure out why was it even only 18 years, especially when you see, although the state sentencing guidelines allow for as many as 96 years. So you telling me that you had the option to put him away for as long as 96 years, and you thought the appropriate amount to sue him with was only 6 years out of that 96, that you didn't even give the 18. But meanwhile, go back to Minneapolis, he shot an unarmed woman under duress of circumstances, what he believed of the woman being a assailant, and shot off one fire warning, and they're going for 15 years. Now, this is why I'm saying, when his sentencing come, we need to stay on this case and make sure he don't get no more than 3 years, because how would it look if he gets sentenced to 15 years for shooting one warning shot, but this motherfucker darn gone shot a darn gone person going away from him over 16 times? Because let me continue reading the story. He will also have to serve a 2-year mandatory supervised release after his prison term. A jury in October found Van Dyke 40 guilty of second-degree murder and 16 counts of aggravated battery in the death of Laquan McDonald. Van Dyke, dressed in an orange jail uniform, appeared somber when Judge Vincent Goldhand announced his decision at the end of an over 8-hour hearing that began Friday morning. The former officer addressed the court shortly before his sentence was announced, saying of the shooting, no one wants to take someone's life, even in the defense of their own. I have prayed daily for the soul of that bullshit. It was due to my actions that the McDonald family has suffered the pain due to the loss of the family member. Pretty much something that his lawyer told him to say, because you wasn't that damn remorseful if you darn gonna have to fire the entire clip at somebody unarmed, you motherfucker. On the night of the shooting in October 2014, Van Dyke and other officers were responsible to report that McDonald was carrying a knife and breaking into cars in the city South Side. Van Dyke, at his trial, testified that he feared for his life when he encountered a teenager who was holding a folded knife. So you were scared of a person bringing a knife to a gunfight? You as an officer who goes through 6 months of training that supposed to be trained to do hand-to-hand combat of how to de-arm somebody who has a knife on them. So you actually are supposed to be trained as an officer to subdue somebody with a weapon such as a knife without even having to pull out your gun. You have mace that can shoot from up to 15 feet away, that the mace alone would have stung him enough for him to drop the knife. You could have fired off a taser because you said the knife was folded, so you wouldn't have to worry about the person accidentally stabbing themselves if you tased them, because he had to unfold the knife first, which by that time you could have darn gone shot your taser into him. And for, I know some people saying, well, tasers don't always work. Under this circumstances, still you didn't need to pull out a gun because the weapon in question didn't warrant equal and opposite reaction. You was going up against somebody that you see had a visible knife, not a gun. So you would need to go at him with some mace, hand-to-hand combat, or a motherfucking darn gone taser. Why you went for a gun in the first place, and then felt the need to shoot 16 times for somebody who supposedly had a folded knife. So miss me with that bullshit. And like somebody don't know darn gone proper police cadet damn training. But dash cam footage showed that Van Dyke was moving closer toward McDonald while the teenager was veering away from officer in the middle of the street. McDonald's death sparked racial tension, a federal investigation, and political upheaval in the city, and the video was released following intense public pressure and calls from activists for police accountability. The last time a Chicago police officer was convicted of murder for an on-duty killing was more than 50 years ago. And we're going to get into Chicago in a moment. Let that sink in. The Chicago, the most corrupted city, is saying that the last time an officer was convicted, even though Chicago has a history of corruption, but the last time you actually had a conviction was 50 years ago. Around the time Martin Luther King was alive, or assassinated, because he was assassinated in what at the beginning of 2000, and I mean in 1968. We now in 2019. So the last time y'all convicted somebody was during Martin Luther King's assassination year. Let that sink in. The prosecution also highlighted complaints against Van Dyke for allegedly using excessive force and featured testimony from minorities who claim he abused civil rights during arrests. You think? Edward Nance, who won $350,000 civil judgment after his arrest by Van Dyke and his partner during a 2007 traffic stop. So he already have a background as well of doggone misconduct, and he was still on the job to actually do this. Cried on the stand as he explained how he was manhandled and remains in constant pain every day from the incident. At the sentencing hearing, the Rev. Martin Hunter McDonald, great uncle, spoke on behalf of the family and read a letter that was written as if McDonald had penned it. And this is what the letter reads as follows. Despite about 20 complaints against him, Van Dyke was never disciplined during his career. So not only did you injure somebody, which resulted in a $350,000 settlement, but you went to darn gone have over 19 other complaints before this incident against you. And once again, they said Chicago hasn't convicted anybody since 1969. But meanwhile, y'all trying to go after Kim Fox, which we're going to get into in a moment. Y'all going after Kim Fox over Jesse Smollett, but meanwhile, y'all feel comfortable admitting that you have officers who have done 20 complaints against him, which have resulted in settlements being paid out, and then y'all kept them on the job to end up darn gone shooting somebody 16 times because his ass didn't want to do basic police training to disarm somebody with pepper spray or to take him out hand-to-hand combat. But Chicago want to go after Kim Fox though. Okay. While jury and judge have rendered their decision, all of us who love Chicago and call this city home must continue to work together, listen to each other, and repair relationships that will make Chicago safer, stronger for generations to come, the statement says. So as y'all can tell, you have this officer, Van Dyke, only serving 6 years and 9 months for the murder of Laquan McDonald for having a folding knife. And before y'all say he was darn on stealing and all this, that, and the third, I don't give a damn if you caught the motherfucker breaking into a house. The darn gone punishment did not fit the crime. Anybody deserves darn gone a right to a trial. Now, for the exception of a terrorist, in my opinion. Now, if you would, because my thing is this: when it comes to people like this, Laquan McDonald, even if he was breaking into a house or a car, was anybody in immediate danger that warrant you shoot? Because I'm trying to figure out how in the hell are we able to darn gonna bring terrorists in alive who shot up a whole nightclub? You're able to bring in a person who just shot up darn gone innocent kids and teachers alive. And you didn't manage to shoot them not one time, and you take them to Burger King. But when it comes to a man with a knife, you telling me all of a sudden you felt compelled to darn gone shoot him over 16 times, even though evidence showed that he was veering away from you. He got shot in the back, not in the front. So you can't say he darn gone you was threatened by the knife, because you shot him in the damn back 16 times. And then you get sentenced to 6 years and 9 months, even though under the guidelines you could have been charged with up to 96 years. But meanwhile, we go back to Minneapolis. Y'all are trying to give him 15 years, which I guarantee you they're going to try. If we don't stay on this story, they're going to try to give him the 15 years. Because look at him as a Somali. He looks more like me. And then look at darn gone Van Dyke's old pale, pasty ass. Look at this darn gone pale paste of crap. And look at this darn gone fire specimen. And then I know some of y'all going to say, well, why don't the darn gone good officers ever speak out on these issues and darn gone say anything? Because we don't, number one, darn gone have their back. We don't have their darn gone backs and speak on up on the officers. We don't provide protection for officers whose lives being threatened. Because let me take you to Warrensville. Y'all remember this woman right here, Nakia Jones? Let me play some of her video real quick and turn my fan off, because I remember the last video I just did, it was muffled because y'all kept hearing the fan intersect with the noise on the computer. So let me turn my fan off real quick and turn my AC on. Okay, y'all should be able to hear my sound more clearly now.
And so hurt, because it bothers me when I hear people say, y'all police officers this, y'all police officers that, and they put us in this negative category, when I'm saying to myself, I'm not that type of police officer. I know officers that are like me that will give their life for other people. So I'm looking at it, and it tore me up, because I got to see what you all see. If I wasn't a police officer and I wasn't on the inside, I would be saying, look at this racist stuff, look at this, and it hurt me. First of all, I became an officer in 1996. I grew up in the hood, so I ain't grew up in the suburbs. I grew up on 93rd and Kansas. We moved to East Cleveland, so I know what it is. So the reason why I became a police officer was to make a difference in people's lives. I knew what it was like to have a parent on drugs. I knew what it was like to watch people be picked on and bullied on and all kinds of things. And I said, I want to make a difference. I want to be that change. So I became that change. So in 96, I took an oath in East Cleveland, sitting in front of Chief Guy, and said I would serve and protect my community by all costs. Even if it meant I wouldn't go home to my 1-year-old daughter. And that's what I did. And I did it with integrity and respect. The thing that hurt me most of all was that a lot of people that I was arresting were the same color as me, that grew up in East Cleveland like me, so I couldn't understand that. Why would you want to destroy your community? I couldn't understand. I said, okay, but they're not sworn to serve and protect either. They didn't take that oath. This is what they do. So then I left there and I came to another predominantly black community and became a police officer. I'm the first and only African American female officer, and I can say that pride and respect. I stand in front of Marcia Fudge and took that oath that I would serve and protect my community. And I also moved into my community and I raised my children in this community. I wear that blue uniform proudly. And I know for a fact I have 6 beautiful children that love me, and I have a husband, I have a family that loves me, and I know there's times I may not come home from work. I have taken guns off 15, 14, 13-year-old children. I'm talking about real guns. I've had to go and tell a mother that their 13-year-old son or daughter was not coming home. I've interviewed rape victims that's been raped by people that look just like me, the same color as me. We are running around killing each other left and right. But what hurts me the most is the people that stood in front of a judge and stood in front of a mayor and said, I swear my oath that I will serve and protect this community. And God, please forgive me, and you can delete me if you're getting mad at me. If you are white and you working in a black community and you are racist, you need to be ashamed of yourself. You stood up there and took an oath. If this is not where you want to work at, then you need to take your behind somewhere else. I decided to work in the African American community because I'm African American and I wanted to make a difference. I could have worked in Parma. I could have worked in Lakewood. I could have worked in North Homestead. I'm a double minority. They would have got 2 hits for me because I'm African American and I'm a female. I'm here because I wanted to make a difference. But how dare you stand next to me in the same uniform and murder somebody? How dare you? You ought to be ashamed of yourself. So why don't we just keep it real? If you're that officer that know good and well you got a God complex, you're afraid of people that don't look like you, you have no business in that uniform. Take it off. If you're afraid to go and talk to an African American female or male or a Mexican male or female because they're not white like you, take the uniform off. You have no business being a police officer. Because there's many of us that will give our life for anybody. And we took this oath and we meant it.
Okay, that's a little sample of the recording. Y'all can catch I'll put the rest of it down. It's a total of 17 minutes. I mean, not 17 minutes, but like, let me see. How many minutes is it? 7 in total? Yep, it's 7 minutes and 16 seconds. I started at the minute and a half mark. Um, but anyways, I wanted to give y'all a little gist of some officers such as Nakia Jones who actually call out the hypocrisy. And this is what happened to her. So, fired Warrensville Heights cop known for viral rant on police shooting loses lawsuit. Former Warrensville Heights police officer Nakia Jones, seen here at news conference in September, lost the lawsuit she filed against her former employer that alleged retaliation for viral Facebook video that you just saw. Cleveland, Ohio, a federal judge on Wednesday tossed out a lawsuit filed by a fired Warrensville Heights police officer who gained notoriety when she posted a Facebook video decrying the use of force by police officers. Nakia Jones, who worked at the department from 2002 to 2017, so 15 years, said in the lawsuit that officials for the East Side suburb fired her as retaliation for the 7-minute video, 7 minutes and 16 to be exact. She posted that showed her passionately talking about how she believed racist white police officers have no business being in uniform. The video has been viewed over 8.3 million times. And like I said in the last video, I also made mention that the FBI has confirmed that the Ku Klux Klan has infiltrated the police department. That has been verified by the Federal Bureau of Investigations. So they have infiltrated, which it wasn't that hard to do, considering that the emblem of the police department actually stems from the slave patrol, and that they were originally formed to darn on patrol and uphold darn on Jim Crow. So when you went from post-slavery into Jim Crow, that's when the police officers was truly formed as the slave patrol, and it has kept that core ever since. Even in the form of the 13th Amendment, which I also touched on, legalizes slavery in the form of the prison system. So, of course, you're going to have the Klansmen just switch over the profession to where it's legalized to darn gonna go around and torturing people and putting them back in a slavery like manner, because that's just the demons that they are. But anyways, moving on. That's a video for another day. Chief U.S. District Judge Patricia Garn, however, wrote that Jones did not show a correlation between the video which she posted in February 2016 and her fire in October 2017. And that's another thing with these officers. They darn on crafty with their mess. They make sure they don't fire you immediately so it doesn't look obvious. They're darn gonna torture your ass for months, which she also had documented evidence that she posted on the Roland Martin show. Contrary to what people think about Roland Martin, he does have some good content that some people sleep on. I will have that video down below where she had a 46-minute interview with Dr. Roland Martin, how she was being harassed on the job, how she was getting death threats, how she was getting information about um, the whereabouts of her family and all of that. This is what she was going through, all for speaking out. And once again, y'all wonder why officers feel compelled to be silent, because where was we at as black people to have her back? Where was we at when she was going through the rough of it? She got in a car accident, which I think they're going to touch on later on in this document, which is why she was out and she had to call out. And the moment that she called out, they used that as a reason to fire her, even though she had medical reason to actually call out. But they was darn on wait. They was doing a slow burn. They don't want to fire you then, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, but they eventually get you on out of there, even if it takes as long as a year. And then they are darn gonna have it with their buddies. Like I said, everybody in bed with each other. The judges are in bed with each other. The DA, they all friends together. So of course she wasn't going to go too far with the lawsuit, because we ain't got no special counsel appointed to darn gonna deal with these types of motherfuckers. Which is why I'm proposing that as far as a president running for the United States, they need to be adding additional counsel to darn gonna prosecute these types of people. That's why I was more so for Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton has actually proposed special counsel for prosecutions of doggone officers and people within Parliament. Now I'm waiting for Elizabeth Warren or Marion Williamson, Cory Booker, or Kamala Harris or somebody to pick it up. Hell, if a Republican picks it up, I would darn gone even be giving them a good darn gone eye at darn gone voting for them. But anyways, let's continue with this article. Jones was scheduled to return to work on October 9th, but she called in sick that day and the next one due to a headache. Sellers decided to conduct surveillance on Jones for her next scheduled work day on October 13th. Jones called in sick for the next 3 days, again claiming a headache and a flare up of lupus. Oh, I didn't even know about the lupus. But the personnel assigned to conduct surveillance on Jones saw her board a plane to Philadelphia, where she spoke at a conference. Guard wrote in the opinion. Garner's ruling against Jones on a summary judgment motion wrote that there is no causal connection between plaintiff's protection of speech and her termination, and defendants have demonstrated that there was a legitimate reason for the decision. The judge also threw out claims alleging affliction of emotional distress and a hostile work environment. I don't know how the hell did that manage to go through, considering that she actually has the letters showing that her life was threatened. This is why I said, and I wonder what state. I think this was in Texas. Can you record in the state of Texas? Like hell, her life was already being threatened. This is why we should have these officers in these types of situations. You should have a darn gone hidden camera on you in this type of situation. Because just mere documentation don't go too far. And hell, even doggone surveillance footage don't really go too far either. But it would definitely help more if she had like a pen camera on her. It's so many different doggone surveillance cameras that you can get that's not obvious, like in the form of a pen or hidden in your hair or something like that. Matter of fact, I think it might be my darn gone duty to get back into selling darn gone defense weapons and camera software due to the times that we live in. Because if she had a camera that showed those officers and stuff putting her in a hostile situation, this should be a whole different ballpark for her. But anyways, Jones' video showing her decrying violence and saying black men and children need to stop picking up guns and start following better paths. But her words became pointed and fervent as she addressed the 2016 death of Alton Sterling, a black man shot during a struggle with two white police officers in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Jones said in the video that white police officers should not be on the job if they're racist. But once again, that's somewhat of a issue when the darn police force was actually built on the institution of racism. It was originally built on slave patrol to darn enforce Jim Crow after post-slavery, which the emblem that all officers wear actually stems from the slave patrol to this day. And the 13th Amendment actually allows slavery to this day in the form of the prison system. So once again, that's all I got to say on that. Soon thereafter, ABC News invited Jones to sit on a panel with President Barack Obama for a town hall on race. She continues to do speaking engagements, which I hope she's getting paid for those engagements because now she darn gonna essentially got blackballed. And that's another thing. When officers speak out, they can't just go to another darn town like Betty Shelby, which we're going to get to in a moment. They can't darn get hired to darn after they darn shot somebody, and then when police officers are required to go through training, I don't know how you train the racism away because it's not from the training. They got the training, they just not utilizing the training because we just darn reported on Jason Van Dyke. He decided to bring a gun to the knife fight instead of using his police training of darn disarming him hand-to-hand combat. So they got the training, they're just not utilizing the training, and that's an intentional use of not doing it. It's not because you didn't know or you forgot, you just didn't want to because you're racist. But anyways, back to darn Nakai Jones. Meanwhile, she's blackballed. She's doing speaking engagements, which like I said, I hope she's getting paid for. And then it goes to say officials with the whole Ohio Patrolman Behavior Association, which represents rank and file Warrensville Heights police officers, said in September. Okay, was this in Ohio or Texas? I'm confused now. I thought it was Texas, but I guess it might have been Ohio. That they filed a grievance against the department. That day, Jones was terminated. The status of that grievance was not immediately clear Wednesday. Honey, there's so many darn police misconducts, I get the darn states confused, y'all. And that's a copy of that grievance right there. Oh, I guess that's all of it right there. But see how this it has a double standard where you got darn Nakia Jones right here essentially being blacklisted and having to require now do speaking engagements instead. But you got Jason Van Dyke getting 6 years and 9 months for murder and shooting somebody 16 years behind the back. But meanwhile, you got Officer Noor who shot somebody once and what he believed was honestly a hostile situation at nighttime, which he did not have a clear view of the person, and his own side officer was reaching for his gun. He shot a warning shot, and that warning shot happened to hit the person and died. Now you trying to give him 15 years, which you are trying your best to give him all of that. But meanwhile, how do you say you only gave this man 6 years and 9 months? And once again, in the state of Chicago, which now let's go ahead and go over to Chicago with the Jussie Smollett situation. Because once again, this video is all about double standards within the darn law enforcement with everybody. how it's one way for black people and another way for white people. Because now you got Chicago prosecutor Kim Foxx subpoenaed over Jesse Smollett's case report. Chicago top prosecutor Kim Foxx has been subpoenaed Friday over her handling of the Jesse Smollett case, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. Fox, Cook County State Attorney, will have to appear in court after a retired appellate judge Sheila O'Brien filed a petition last week for a special prosecutor to probe the Smollett case, in which a 16-count indictment against the Empire actor was dropped last month. Trump slams Jesse Smollett as a disgrace to our nation during Wisconsin rally. Now, meanwhile, Donald Trump has not said anything regarding Jesse Van Dyke. Didn't say anything regarding where Betty Shelby, which we're going to get to. Didn't say anything in regard to the unjust treatment that Nakia Jones has been enduring. And all of this has been long-standing national news. Jesse Smollett has just happened in late January. This been going on since 2017. Jason Van Dyke since 2014, and the verdict is just coming in for him. So you had all this time, even before running for president, to be updated on this darn gone case, Donald Trump. But he's speaking out on a celebrity. He's speaking out on Jesse Smollett, who allegedly did a host on himself. And the Nigerian brothers are being pinned as victims as opposed to co-conspirators. Now, where they do that shit at? Where the darn on co-conspirators can turn around and act like they victims, like they was working for El Chapo or some shit, like they was really felt like they was under duress and compelled to darn on do something on Jesse Smollett's behalf. Now, if he was guilty, I can understand under the circumstance, okay, he paid a fine and maybe do 2-4 years in jail. The most major thing he was potentially being charged for, which is still under investigation, of whether he sent the powder substance to his own to himself, which constitute as a violation of, I forgot what it's called. I think it's Title 14, the Patriot Act. So that's his major issue that he's going under. It's not even for darn gone falsifying a police report. That's the FBI is the real darn gone people that he had to worry about. But meanwhile, they still trying to go after him and darn gone Kim Foxx, trying to fire her over this one incident, even though she ran on a platform of where she said she would not go and seek maximum punishment for ultimately non-violent offenses, and faking a darn gone assault crime, how horrific and that is, as far as taking away from funds from serious crimes. That is not a violent crime at the end of the day. Faking an assault is not violent. It does require some punishment, and if he would have got 2 years in jail and maybe a fine, I can understand that. However, darn gone trying to go and try to seek as much as 64 years, that's ridiculous. And then trying to fire Kim Foxx over this, once again, ridiculous, when in this exact same city you feel comfortable saying this. Let me go back to it, where they said the last time they darn gone felt comfortable convicting an officer in the most darn gone corrupt darn gone precinct in the damn nation was during the time where Martin Luther King got assassinated. Because the last time a Chicago police officer was convicted of murder for an on-duty killing was more than 50 years ago. So Van Dyke is the first one in Chicago since Martin Luther King's assassination. But meanwhile, y'all trying to go after Kim Foxx. You got the mayor, you got Donald Trump saying his darn gone piece and everything else over a non-violent offense. But meanwhile, here's the first conviction since 1969. Has Donald Trump said anything about that? Has your president said anything about the Van Dyke situation? But meanwhile, he's focusing on Kim Foxx. Let it make sense. And then it goes further to talk about Fox top deputy Joseph Maggots was also subpoenaed, and another document requested that Smollett appear at the hearing. The report said O'Brien requested Fox Maggots and Smollett produce original documents in the criminal case to assure the public that they have not been altered or destroyed. That would not be destroyed throughout this case. The Sun-Times report. The petition for a special prosecutor claims Fox handling over the case was plagued with irregularity. Oh, so now we're talking about special prosecution. Now we're talking about special prosecution, all behind somebody allegedly faking getting attacked in darn on Chicago. But where was the special prosecution in the darn on McDonald case, where this person could have been sentenced to as much as 96 years? Where's that statement at? 96 years, but he only got darn on 6 years and 9 months for shooting darn on Laquan McDonald 16 times in the back because he had a darn on pocket knife which was still folded, that he was turning around and going away from you when he was shot 16 times. Where was the special prosecutor for that? But you're going for a special prosecutor for a celebrity who darn gone is B-list, who is not no multi-millionaire in the sense of Beyonce status. Like, I can understand if we was talking about trying to convict darn on P. Diddy or some shit, somebody that can actually pay some people off. But you talking about Jussie Smollett, who only make maybe what, $1-2 million a year after taxes. Like, really? But y'all darn gonna talk about special prosecutors and all this for Jussie Smollett. But darn gone Donald Trump's nowhere to be found to mention the darn gone first darn gone conviction of a police officer for corruption and killing while on duty for the first time in 50 years. Once again, if that ain't the darn gone hypocrisy, I don't know what is. Hasn't said nothing towards Nakia Jones. There you go, speaking. But then meanwhile, we got Betty Shelby. Because like I said, let's save the most tragic for last. After 9 hours of deliberation, a jury acquitted Tulsa police officer Betty Shelby in the shooting death of Terrence Crutcher, an unarmed black man. The killing in September was one of a number of police shootings of unarmed black men across the United States in recent years. Oh no, it ain't a number at this point. Because by the time Beyonce did the doggone tribute at the first Formation World Tour, the number was already up to 537 names. Now y'all have these officers have since committed doggone several more hundred unarmed killings since 2016. So it ain't just no number at this point when it's in the tune of the hundreds. 537 at the time that Beyonce did her tribute way back in 2016. The killing in September was one of a number of unarmed shootings in states in recent years that have heightened concerns about possible. You see how they darn gonna like to use that word, like they try to minimize the shit. Possible. Before reaching a verdict Wednesday night, the 9 white and 3 black jurors asked the judge if they could explain their decision. Oh, you actually had 3 darn gone jurors, 3 black darn gone people went along with this bullshit. Lord, it's darn gone Mark Zimmerman all over again. I can only imagine the black bitch that was on the panel now. Because once again, they darn gonna make sure not to darn gonna show the darn gone jurors. Before reaching a verdict Wednesday night, the 9 white jurors, 3 black jurors asked the judge, they could explain the decision in court. The judge told them they could only announce their verdict in court, but said that they were free to explain it publicly following the trial's conclusion. Shelby left without making a statement after the verdict. Family speaks out. And then this is how the shooting took place. On September 16, 2016, Crutcher SUV was found stalled in the middle of the street. A witness called 911 and said a man was running away from the vehicle, warning it was going to blow up. Shelby testified she arrived on the scene and approached the vehicle and cleared it, not seeing anyone inside. As she turned back to her patrol car, she saw Crutcher walking toward her. She testified he alternated between putting his hands in his pocket and putting them in the air. Shelby said, I don't care. At the end of the day, you didn't see a damn weapon. Crutcher did not comply with her commands to show me your hands, she testified. She also said he was sweating heavily and smelled the PCP chemical. How the hell can you tell somebody smell of PCP chemicals, bitch? Really? Not that he smelled the alcohol. Not that he smelled the weed, but PCP chemicals. Bitch, that don't even go with the color of the damn person. It's your darn on people strung out on darn on heroin and motherfucking pills, bitch. But anyways, Crutcher ignored orders from Shelby, uh, and another officer on the scene, Tyler Turnbull, according to Shelby testimony. She testified that Crutcher put his hands on the SUV and moved to reach into the vehicle. Her police training taught her that if a suspect reaches their hands inside a car, don't let them pull them out, she testified. We're not trying to see what comes out of a car, Shelby said. We're trying to stop a threat, and by all indications of threat. Bullshit. Because you can easily darn gone tase somebody in the darn gone back. You can darn gone pull and yank their ass back and slam them to the ground. There's so many different things that you can do as opposed to darn gone feeling the need to fire a gun. But anyways, moving on. Shelby was arrested shortly after. Shelby was arrested shortly after. All officials released video of the shooting, which showed Crutcher walking on the road with his arms in the air before being shot. She was charged with felony manslaughter. Prosecutors said in an arrest filing that Shelby reacted unreasonably by escalating the situation into a fatal encounter. They asked Shelby why she didn't use a taser instead of a gun. I wonder that as well. Prosecutors also asked her where blame lay in the fatal encounter. Is Terrence Crutcher's death his fault? Tulsa County Assistant District Attorney Kevin Gray asked. Yes, Shelby replied. Now you see how bold she felt with saying that. Now they first asked her why didn't she use a taser instead? Dodged that question and then said, do you felt that his death was justified? Even though it was found out later that he was unarmed. Toxicology report probably showed that he was not on any PCP, which it looks like it's confirming what I'm saying. Crutcher supporters condemned the defense attempt to paint him as a villain. Shelby's lawyers cited an autopsy that found PCP in his system at the time of the shooting and brought up law enforcement experts who had encounters with him dating back to 1990. Oh, okay, so he had PCP in the system. Even then, you're over 15 feet away. So, okay, even if he had PC, which I'm darn on willing to bet during these times, because we see that if the autopsy darn on person is the one from the darn on police department, honey, they'll slip some darn on PCP in the darn on person system. Because you just naturally assume, like, how in the hell does somebody act specifically on PCP? And then coincidentally, that person happens to be on that drug as opposed to crack cocaine or anything else, or methamphetamine drugs or heroin. You just naturally was able to look at him and say that he was on PCP, and then they do a drug test and find that he was on that specific drug. Okay. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if the darn gone person in the morgue actually slipped PCP in the system and then darn gone write the report up. Because the shit that we seen happen actually darn gonna be happening. Like when they showed us stuff on 50 Shades of Blue, which was J Lo's show, there's a reason why that shit was darn gonna cancel, even though the ratings were doing good. Because it damn sure didn't darn gonna get canceled due to motherfucking low ratings. And it just like motherfucking darn gone Underground was the top rated motherfucking show on WGN, and they cut that bitch off whenever some darn gone truth is being spilled. But anyways, let's say even if he was on PCP, once again, why didn't you use the taser? Why didn't you use the mace that can shoot from over 15 feet away? You went to the most deadliest option first. In spite of anything that Terrence may have done in the past that may have had a negative turn to it, it does not justify murder, said Dr. Rodney Ghost with Morningstar Baptist Church. It doesn't matter. She didn't have a toxicology report when she murdered him. She didn't know about anything in his past when she murdered him. All making assumptions. And once again, that's how they are. Slave Patrol. Racial disparities persist. Gerard Lindsay, chairman of Tulsi Fraternal Order of Police, said that there were no winners following the verdict. There's still a family that has dealt with tragedy here. The Crutchers, we still extend our deepest sympathies to them, he said. Tulsi Mayor G.T. Barnes said that the verdict does not change the fact that more work needs to be done to address racial disparities. After considering days of testimony and ongoing its own deliberation, the jury has spoken. I appreciate the jury's service to our community and respect the verdict. Once again, we still don't get to see who the jurors are. And then after this, I think this is the same person who ended up getting a job shortly thereafter, training darn on police on misconduct. But meanwhile, you got officers such as where's she at? You got officers such as Nakia Jones who have to rely on public speaking engagements because she has been blacklisted. But meanwhile, you have this darn old nasty piece of crap. You have this bitch able to darn on get away with murder. And have the darn on toxicologist allegedly plant darn on PCP in the darn on deceased system to corroborate her story, allegedly. And once again, that wraps this up all in a nutshell of double standards that black people within law enforcement has to face compared to their white counterparts. Where you have Jason Van Dyke, who could have been served 96 years, only get 6 years and 9 months for shooting Laquan McDonald 16 times. But you have Somalian officer, because he's not American, because he was actually from Somalia and came here and was not. So I guess in a way Somali American. What's his name? Somalian Muhammad Noor shot somebody one time in a freak accidental situation. It's 15 years. Once again, it's our duty to keep this up in the news to make sure that he does not get nowhere near that. Now, he is guilty of involuntary manslaughter, but due to all the information that I read on y'all, if he has to serve prison time, he shouldn't get no more than 2 years. He shouldn't get no more than 2 to 3 years. And darn on maybe 3 years of probation and the option to go back to his motherfucking job. Because if you telling me that this bitch can darn on get a job and darn on police training for people, because this bitch is now darn on training police on misconduct after killing somebody. After killing somebody in the situation that she was in. But meanwhile, we're going to blacklist officers like Nakia Jones for simply speaking out. And then Officer Noah, he gets out, he's going to be blacklisted too. Or possibly darn on sit back to darn on Ethiopia. And then now you're looking to darn on kick out Kim Fox for Jesse Smollett in the most darn on corrupt city where the darn on mayor has the audacity to turn his motherfucking nose up The police officer had the audacity to turn his nose up, but the first doggone conviction of a police officer in Chicago for an on-duty death, when we know there's far more, it's been the first time in 50 years was this case where it's only 6 years and 9 months. And this wraps up the darn hypocrisy in a nutshell. And why darn officers don't speak out. And that is why I am proposing in reparations for black people that it should not just be darn money, that we should have our own lands. We should be granted darn money to build up our own police departments in our own neighborhood and have darn officers like Nakia Jones darn in our own neighborhoods, on our own darn land. That can go towards the $6 trillion in reparations. Give us our own neighborhoods segregated in our own lands where we can fund our own police departments, where we don't have to deal with this type of bullshit. That's what I propose with reparations. And that's why, once again, reparations is needed. And it don't even need to be studied at this point with HR 40, because with this is the real life darn study right here, how you can darn see the hypocrisy. When you have Jason Van Dyke versus Officer Noah, Kim Fox being darn trying to get kicked, they trying to kick her out. Officer Nakia Jones being blacklisted, while this bitch gets the darn go and darn train officers after darn committing this murder. Once again, this is why we need $6 trillion in reparations. $5 trillion would go towards our own economic land allotments, business grants, funding to build up our own cities and structures, our own parks, our own police departments, and we can hire our own officers such as Nakia Jones, our own prosecutors on our own damn land. Unless they do something, massively public. And just like with Native Americans, they can get prosecuted in American court systems. Once again, that's why we need reparations in 2019. But y'all leave y'all thoughts down below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know if y'all like more videos like this. And I will see y'all soon with more videos. Like I said, just a sad case all the way around. Just some damn bullshit. This just piss me all the way the fuck off. But once again, I love to know y'all thoughts on this. Once again, this is all the people involved. And like as per usual, I will leave all the links down below.